My question is on restructuring. And I would like His Excellency to be very specific. You have been drumming restructuring as one of the things that you're going to do in this country. It's a complex country. Your restructuring, is it according to states? Are you going to allow states or regions to control their resources? Is it going to be in the form of the old republic where the regions control resources and pay royalty to the center? I would like you to be very specific on this.
Number one, restructuring. What type? Are we going to have resource control? Very, very typical of me, as I said. I had assembled a team of constitutional lawyers from each of the geopolitical zones. I told them, give me a proposal of legislation which I can immediately put before the National Assembly on day one after taking office. I already have a copy of the draft legislation, but I cannot share it with you. Paul has a copy. I want you to know and realize that amending the Constitution requires the executive, the National Assembly, and the state assemblies. So we all have to agree on what type of restructuring. Of course, when we say devolution of powers, obviously devolution of powers must go hand in hand with also a certain measure of resource control. So it is just logical for you, if your interest is only resource control, Mr. Whoever asked the question, for sure you will have a measure of resource control depending on, of course, the powers that will be devolved to your either state or local government. Of course, it's the same with revenue sharing formula. So this is the last question. I want to really thank you very much indeed for this opportunity and for this interactive session. God bless you all.
Good afternoon, Your Excellencies. My name is Azu Aronze, and I write for Yes. It's very simple, His Excellency. I want to know, what are you doing to reconcile these lingering issues with the PDP governors? Because I do not think it will do you good. House. Thank you very much.
Then I now move to the issue of reconciliation within PDP. I can assure you that talks are going on, and I believe we are going to reconcile. It's a family issue, and we are regarding it as such. We are talking to ourselves, and I believe we will resolve our family disputes.
Nigeria, as a member of United Nations, has signed and ratified some international conventions, that guarantees 35% affirmative action for women. Your Excellency, how do you intend to curb women into your administration? Thank you very much.
How about more women in our administration? We did that between 1999 and 2007. Again, there is the issue of memory, and then there is the issue of age. Most of our population today, 70% are young men and women. And then, regrettably, our schools no longer teach the history of this country. So unless you do an extensive research, which our young men and women are not, at the moment, not too good in, you will not recognize that our government had the highest, the PDP government has the highest number of women in our government. And this we promise, and I pledge to continue with that, 30%.
Your Excellency, good morning, sir. I remember in 2019, when we met you, sir. 2019, before the general election, you said something about security, about American University in Yola, that you got a retired general from US who fought in Afghanistan or Iraq, and they gave you a blueprint to secure the place. Now, we know many of these guys in Nigeria are terrorists, and they are from outside the country. How do you want to secure this country from 2023? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
And then the next question was, how do I secure the country? We faced the same problem when we came in 1999. More boots on the ground, more equipment, more training. Even by the time you double the strength of the Nigeria police force, maybe you will be talking about 700,000 or so. First of all, by putting more boots on the ground, you would have reduced unemployment. So if you extend that, operation to the armed forces, so by the time you finish doing that, you find that you would have taken out more than 1 million people out of the unemployment market. And then, of course, there is the issue of devolution of powers and the issue of state police. That I will discuss when I come to the issue of restructuring.
My name is Atiku, former editor-in-chief of the News Agency of Nigeria. You are known as the unifier. But the way things stand right now, Nigerians are not that united. I'd like to know what plans you have to ensure that Nigerians see themselves as one, and in such a manner that whenever they introduce themselves, they don't talk about religion, they don't talk about their regions. Instead, they identify themselves as Nigerians. And then there's a particularly worrisome issue. The North, whenever they speak, it's what is the need for the North? I'd rather we spoke about Nigeria, what is the need for Nigerians, and not just the North, or any region for that matter. Thank you.
What plans to unify Nigeria? I have answered that question before. I try to remind our audience, of course, maybe perhaps 60% of our voters today were just being born when we first set up the first democratic government in 1999. In 1999, all the two major political parties had southern candidates. This is because when we rose from the Constitutional Conference of 1994, we all agreed that our next president must come from the South, irrespective of whichever party you belong to. And we considered the presidency to the South. And therefore, we had two presidents who came from the South, Olusegun Obasanjo and Chief Olufalaye. After the country was so divided between the North and South, we said, look, we are going to do a government of national unity. Even though PDP won overwhelmingly, we brought in UPN ministers, ANPP ministers, and also PDP, AD rather, ministers. So with that move, the country immediately became one that provided us the peace and stability we needed to embark on a number of reforms to make sure we get the people of this country the good governance they require. So this is what I intend to do. I have said it. PDP will form a government of national unity. We will bring other members of the party opposition. And then, of course, we move on from there. So this is one only ways to begin to move. Today, we have 17 heads of the various security agencies. All of them came from the north. I won't do that. It's madness. I will make sure that every geopolitical zone is represented in those security outfits. This is also another way you can unify the country and give every part of this country a sense of belonging.
Your Excellency, my name is Ambrose Oko from Channels TV. My question is on the economy. Most people here are barely able to fend for themselves and their family today. So what would you do differently to return the economy back to what it used to be in the 60s? What's your blueprint for the economy, Your Excellency?
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, sir. I think the ball comes over to you again. Thank you.
Basically, I intend to continue with the economic policies we embarked on between 1999 and 2007. Liberalize the economy, promote the private sector to create jobs and wealth in simple, straightforward terms. Is broad. Liberalizing the economy is broad. Empowering the private sector is broad. And of course, continuing with privatization of our public enterprises. In other words, more private sector driven economy. If you look at the greatest economies in the world, you find that government has very, very little to do with their economy. They allow the private sector to play its role. And you can see the prosperity and the development that the private sector has unleashed in their greatness. If you see the amount of work that government has to do in this country, like say, building and rebuilding our ports, constructing our railway lines, building our highways, the amount of money, let me borrow Dr. Pessy's word, humongous amount of money that you require, you know that the government doesn't have it. I would rather concession most of this to the private sector and give them tax breaks. They invest, recover their money, and we will have development, and we will have progress, we will have jobs, and we will have prosperity. This is going to be my approach.